Welcome. Welcome to Wharton Moneyball. Welcome to a full hour of sports analytics here on the Wharton Podcast Network. This is Cade Massey hosting this week with my two longtime collaborators, friends, colleagues here at Wharton, Eric Bradlow and Adi Wyner. Our fourth co-host, Shane Jensen, is out this week. He's teaching. He'll be back. He and Adi are juggling teaching schedules this quarter, but we've got three of us in here for the duration. We are coming up on 12 years. We've been doing this virtually every week for 12 years, some combination of us in here. We're going to hit our anniversary in March. We're recording on Tuesday afternoon as we typically do. Show will go up on Wednesday. We are going to run our regular format this week, which means in the first half of the show, bring a guest in here who's already here. And second half, we'll do open lines, kick things around a little bit, see what the boys have been thinking about over the last week. Guest this week, longtime friend of the show, old friend of the show. I don't mean old man. I mean old time friend, Ben Alamar. You probably know him from his involvement in sports analytics. Really one of the first guys in, working in the NBA. Must have been one of the very first full-time guys in the NBA. He's worked with the Spurs, the Cavs. Spent a good stretch at ESPN, working with people like Dean Oliver, building out the sports analytics platform there at ESPN internally and externally. That has had a profound influence on the world of sports. He teaches in various places. He's teaching right now at the University of Texas. He's taught in universities around the country, teaching a sports analytics class, has a book out on sports analytics, done well enough to be in second edition. Ben Alamar, good to see you. Thanks for making time for us.
Oh, pleasure to be here again. It's been, as I say, old time participant here, but always glad to join in the discussion.
Thanks, man. Good to see you. Fellas, Adi is going to be up at the MIT conference in a couple of weeks, the MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference, 20th annual. Those guys run up there every year. Adi will be up there. Ben's a frequent host of some platform event session. Ben's got a session this spring on academic collaborations, I believe, or academic research. So y'all need to cross paths while you're up there running around Boston.
I hope I'll be able to contend.
Yeah,
Ben,
absolutely.
We're slowly tearing our attention away from the football world and casting around for other things to attend to. Adi, of course, is already excited about whatever meager offerings baseball has right now. They're up and running, but really there are two sports underway, and we're trying to get deeper on both of them. Setting aside for the moment Olympics, basketball and hockey, and you're good across all sports, but I think you're especially deep in basketball. So, can you help us get up to speed on the NBA? And what do you, as you look around, as you dig in, as you pay attention, what do you think's interested in the NBA this year?
Yeah, I mean, the NBA has been really pretty exciting this year. I think there's always some issues folks have in with tanking and such, and we'll get to that at some point. But I think what's great about this year is we're seeing, for one, the Spurs, the rise of Wembanyama, really starting to fulfill the promise that everybody had expected. We're seeing some real surprises as well. Like you have the young Detroit team really leading the league now in a lot of ways, and moving in a great position to make us a strong run in the postseason. And you also have this other surprise, the Boston Celtics, who during the offseason they were tearing their team down, sent a lot of salary off, a lot of good players off, but have been able to put together a really strong team that is competing well in the East. Which not as strong as the West, but they've been against New York and Detroit. They've been really good, despite not having Jason Tatum. And the idea that Tatum is getting ready to perhaps join them for a playoff run makes that a really scary team. When nobody was really counting on the Celtics. They saw them as much like the Pacers, sort of taking a gap year here while their best player was on the bench.
Ben, can I jump in there real quick?
Yeah.
The four franchises that you just pointed out, you pointed out San Antonio. Actually, maybe you didn't point out Oklahoma City, but I can't help but think about Oklahoma City. So you didn't. So San Antonio, Detroit, and Boston. San Antonio and Boston, I think anybody would call two of the best run franchises in the NBA, famously good front offices. And of course, OKC is floating around in the background as well. I don't know anything about Detroit's front office. Are they thought of in the or they thought of as an up and coming? What is it that's going on around there that allowed them to kind of surprise with a young team here?
Yeah, so they a couple years ago, they brought in, Trajan Langdon and, Michael, Blackstone. Both the guys have been they were working together in New Orleans before. I worked with Blackstone in Cleveland. He's really sort of a negotiation salary cap expert. Trajan's just been, come in and really worked his way up in the league, in the front office, is very well respected, generally speaking. And they've done, they had some young talent there already when they got there, that the old regime had put in place, but they also had a lot of, contracts that they needed to move and turn into valuable assets, which they've done a great job of combining, sort of creating, a platform for their young players to, demonstrate that they can, play while, not, you know, uh, at the same time adding some valuable pieces that can help them, win games as those young guys develop and get a little bit more experience. So,
Yeah.
I think they've done a really nice job over the last couple of years, transitioning that team from what it was, which was, sort of mired in, not being able to move forward too much, created some flexibility for themselves, and really has, obviously, put together a really talented roster that's doing a great job.
Hmm. Cool to hear. Trajan Langdon, Duke alum. Yeah, is he the guy played Alaska, drifted down from Alaska, played ball at Duke for a while?
That's the
Yeah,
guy.
exactly.
Interesting. I don't. Has anyone ever tried to map the influence from various collegiate programs into the NBA? They've got a number of former players in successful front offices, don't they?
Yeah, Duke certainly does. Um, but it's hard to track. So the front office guys are so varied in their experiences. I mean, it's like, Sam Presti. He is, from D3 school at,
Yeah.
and has obviously really thought of as the best run franchise right now in the league. So,
Right. Right.
uh, really,
Was he? I assume he was there when you were there back in
yeah.
the early 2000s. So how early in Sam's regime was your time with him?
Well, so Sam got hired in Seattle. There was the Supersonics at the time. He got hired, and then, his first decision was to draft Kevin Durant, and then that he hired me. So it was a really big summer for the Super. Uh, we got going. So yeah, I started working with Sam right after his first draft. And,
Okay.
suffered through a couple of tough years as we were building that team, but, turned it around with some, brilliant draft work from Sam. Uh,
This this is a bigger question than we have time for, but I'm curious to get just a first taste from you on this. What do you think Sam had to learn? Like, what are some of the what's one of the first things he had to learn as he moved into that position? Presumably he kept on learning for a long time. He's gotten some
okay.
good at it, but what's something that you saw him work through and you think he learned early on in his time?
Um, so I think that, one of the things was, sort of how to, use data. He had come from the Spurs, where, they were one of the early teams that had done anything in the area of data analytics, and he knew that he really wanted it, but he didn't really, have full grasp of what was possible or how to incorporate it, really into decision making.
Hmm.
How to trust, and then, but, he's so smart, and he's really good at just asking questions, which is sort of the key piece that you need in that
Hmm.
position to grow and learn how to utilize things well. And so he really developed from sort of like, all right, here's a spreadsheet that we can provide for you every, week that's updated, to really understanding how to build a system within the team, and not just a one-off guy, but like, how do we have all this information really permeate through,
Yeah.
everything that we're working on.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I think Eric was trying to jump in.
No, I wanted to go back just for a second to your
Yeah,
self
go.
comment. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, Ben, if you think that, in some sense, if they were in the West, I
Mhm.
think you would agree the Celtics would not be the favorites in the West.
Oh no.
But the fact that they're in the East also, which gives them, let's call it a round or two to get Tatum back in the flow,
Yep.
you could make an argument that they could be higher than, let me make an argument, you just tell me I'm wrong.
Sure.
They're high because of the weakness of the East,
Yep.
the openness of the East.
Yep.
They're higher than any team in the West, because in the West, it could be the Spurs, could be the Nuggets, it could be the Thunder. But out of the East, they might be the favorite with Tatum back. And so they have a higher probability of making it to the finals, even though they have a lower probability of winning the finals. If you had to guess right now, would they be your favorite based on that argument, or is that not right?
I think it's a fair argument. I'm not sure that they're the total favorites just because we don't know what Tatum is. Like, is he coming back and how he meshes with how the team is playing this season? Jaylen Brown there has been the guy making that team work. And while Brown and Tatum have obviously played together a lot, not in this particular situation and not in the case where Jaylen's gotten the taste of really being the lead of the team. And so how those guys, as Tatum works his way back, he's not going to, he's going to be, he's going to go back into basketball shape, get everything going again. Having that how they work together in this new, takes some time. When players get traded, it takes time for them to settle into the new environment. I think Tatum will take some time to settle into this new Celtics environment in similar ways. If and they figure that stuff out quickly, then they're probably favorites. But Detroit and New York are still really good. They will give them a strong run for money in the playoffs, but certainly not the stumbling blocks that exist in the West with OKC, San Antonio, Denver, as you say.
Ben, let's talk about the West. You mentioned Wembanyama coming on, the team really coming on. OKC was such a force last year, and they seem just stocked for years to come. How does that rivalry shape up, and why is it, if San Antonio is kind of surprisingly competitive in that rivalry, why is that?
Yeah, it's really interesting because the Spurs are look like thunder killers right now. They are the ones who have figured out how to beat them. They've handed the Thunder 4 of their 13 losses this season. So clearly they've got something going there. And so, you can see the impact in a couple of ways. First, on the offense, like the Thunder overall have the 4th ranked offense in the league in terms of efficiency. But against the Spurs, they would be like the 26th ranked offense. They dropping from 120 points per possession to 112. They shoot less efficiently. They get fewer fouls. They don't.
Okay, but hold on, Ben. Doesn't everybody look worse against the Spurs? Or are they not just that successful defensively?
But the Thunder are so good that it's a dramatic drop off, right?
Okay.
Like this is a team that we expect to potentially be a perennial champion, and really put together a run here. And they're only scoring the 26th best offense in the league when they're playing the Spurs.
Yeah, they're not regressing to the mean. They're regressing beyond the mean to the bottom. Okay,
it's polar opposite what's going on there.
Let me ask them, Ben, how much weight do you put in the regular season record of the Thunder? Right now, actually, by the way, they have 14 losses. I didn't even realize this. The Pistons now have the best record in basketball. I actually did not know that the Thunder had passed them for the best record.
Yeah.
Does it mean anything to the Thunder? I mean, yeah, they'd like to hold off the Spurs, trust me. They'd love to have home court advantage in that round. Yeah, that does mean something. But whether they win 60 games, 63 games, 58 games, does it really mean anything?
I think it depends a little bit. I think as early on in the season when the Thunder were just like they were on pace for 70 plus games.
Yeah.
Like then it was like, well,
bet it against that, by the way.
What?
I bet it against that. Regression to the mean is a powerful force.
It is. They're really good though. But at that point, there is a decision you have to make as a team. Like, do we care about this? Should we fundamentally care about doing this? A few years ago, the Warriors decided that they did, and they went for it hard. This year, the Thunder, I think they've had enough injuries and things that guys have missed games where it became clear like that's not going to be going to happen for them this year. They're not going after a win record this year. So generally, no, they want the 1 seed. They'll play for it. They don't like the Spurs. So there is a rivalry there. It was fun to see. It makes the games, gives it a little extra edge because they clearly don't like each other. So in general, they don't care between. That's not an issue. 1 seed and Spurs do matter to them.
So I on the other end of the spectrum, we're hearing talk about tanking. I think the NBA just fined, was it Utah? Somebody got fined for taking out players in a competitive game. It's been a few years since everybody was up in arms about tanking with the NBA, but it seems to be back kind of in force. What's going on, and what do you think, Ben, could be done about it, if anything?
Yeah, so I think two dynamics have sort of led to the level of tanking we're seeing right now, which is, the Jazz not playing their starters in the fourth quarter. Like that's beyond some of the things that we've seen in the past in terms of tanking. Like that's pretty extreme situation.
Well, Ben, let me jump in real quickly. This is maybe cheap, but I don't know what Danny Ainge's role is out there in Utah. You probably have. Can you tell us something about the role? But when Danny Ainge was a player, he would take any edge he could find. It wouldn't be surprising that his organization would be. Is that unfair to say? Probably unfair.
Oh, I just want to interject as a Knicks fan growing up. You put me with Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Parrish, and DJ, and I'm a winner too. Sorry, Ben.
Oh no.
I'm not, and Cornbread Maxwell, I'm not giving Danny Ainge credit for anything on that. But Ben, please go ahead.
Danny Ainge, like he has, regardless of how you feel about him as a player, as an executive, he what he did in Boston.
You cut out there for just a second. Danny Ainge as an executive, what?
As an executive, has been incredibly successful. He built the team in Boston, did an excellent job bringing talent in there. Has won championships as an executive. Moved to Utah now, has a similar role there, sort of trying to build that team. And he is, believes and that it's hard for Utah to acquire players other than through the draft, to top level players other than through the draft. And so he has to feel like, we have to do it through the draft, and tanking is the way to do it. And so
is that because people won't come out to Utah? Is that why?
That's one of the concerns, is that free agents don't look at Salt Lake City as a destination, both from the desirability of the city and also just from the sponsorship opportunities are not the same as they are in places like LA and New York. So small markets are always at this kind of disadvantage, and Utah, I think, is sort of an extra disadvantage there. So
it sounds like you can't win it all out there. I mean, winning only through the draft. I mean, how long do you get to hold on to a player? Usually, they're not. They have to be a free agent.
Once you have a player through the way that through through the first contract, you're the one who gets to pay them the most afterwards. So you have a chance to what OKC is doing right now. That's how they through one very smart trade, which helped them accumulate a lot of draft assets, and some other trades, even more draft assets. They've really built a juggernaut without free agents. They've done it through, they acquired Shea through a trade. Everything else is draft.
Everybody thought Presti was greatly disadvantaged operating out of Oklahoma City for the same.
But also, they ended up with Shea. I mean, that's crazy, right?
Yeah. The Clippers were put in a position by Kawhi Leonard where they basically had to acquire Paul George if they wanted Kawhi, and so Sam knew that he had the leverage to do that, and he insisted on including Shea in that trade. Now, Shea clearly exceeded the expectations of everybody, but he's been like that has been a real thing. But overall, in terms of tanking, we've had a flattening of the odds in the lottery. So if you have the worst record in the league, you don't. It's hard. Your odds of getting the number one pick are less than they used to be. And so more teams have, in that, 1 to 6 range, have a shot at a top 4 pick, a reasonable shot. And this particular draft coming up is thought to be one of a really, really strong draft with at least 3 guys who are thought to be significant, franchise level players in the future. And so you have those two dynamics coming together to really push teams' incentives to want to tank and make sure they're in that bottom 6. Bottom 8, at least, to have a reasonable shot at getting one of those guys in the draft.
Hey, Ben, has there been any evidence that you've seen or looked at that suggests that, I understand, let's say, obviously LeBron James was number 1, and there were a lot of great players number 1, but also there were some number 1 players that didn't work out as well. Sure. How much information is there really to say, well, number 3 is so much better than number 7 or 8? Is there any evidence to suggest that's really true?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you can look at
Okay.
the draft, win probability added over by draft's position, and there's a real curve. There's definitely a declining curve. Now, that's that how steep that curve is varies significantly by the draft. Because as you point out, like look, I was in Cleveland when we drafted Anthony Bennett, number 1 overall. Like, and if you don't know who Anthony Bennett is, it's not your fault. Like that happens. Like there are busts. It's not a, but some drafts are stocked with players that everybody believes are great, and most of them, a lot of them often turn out to be great. Sometimes it's stocked with players that people think are going to be great, and they're fine. Andrew Wiggins is a great example of that. Um, and then you have guys that we totally miss on, like Giannis. Was not a what when we were thinking in that 2014 draft. I guess 2013 draft. Giannis wasn't on our board for one of the top 5 with the top pick because we just didn't have the information we needed to believe he was at that level. But obviously, he was by far the best player in that draft.
Because international scouting wasn't then fully developed. Is that what was going on?
Yeah, we had some international scouting, but we did not have good international data at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ben, but you said this thing. You said the odds have been flattened at the top of the lottery, and that was by design. The design was to decrease the incentive to have the top pick.
Yeah.
But you're saying, ironically, in a deep draft, it gives exactly the wrong incentives, because if you can get into the top 3 or 4, then you have even chances, relatively even chances at one of the great players. Is that what's going on here?
Also, it means that if you're if you finish with the 5th, 6th, 7th record, your odds of getting that first pick are higher than they used to be. So you just want to get down into that range. You don't have to get down to the bottom, but you want to get down that range to have a reasonable shot at that pick.
Well, so these guys at the NBA front office are having a tough time, tweaking these numbers exactly in the way that would give the incentives to play throughout the season. What do you think? If they've made their best effort to get the slope of those odds right, it's still not working. What other levers can they pull?
Well, I mean, there's one very clear, and then there's a second, even more radical way to do this. The obvious way to do this, to eliminate the problem, the incentive problem here, is to just eliminate the draft. And you let all the players coming in, they're all free agents, and you go sign. Your teams that want them can go sign them, and you eliminate the rookie scale contracts. So players, so teams are allowed to differentiate their offers.
But you'd have to have a hard cap if you did that, right?
Well, you can have a hard cap and not have a rookie scale. Like, that's fine. There's no reason. Those two things don't have to go together.
Right.
And so you can still have the hard cap, and if unlikely that the owners would get rid of that, but the rookie scale, which would eliminate the value of the going to the free agency. Once you eliminate the rookie scale, then teams can go and say, all right, yeah, I'm Utah. You may not want to come here, but I'm going to offer you $1 million more than LA is going to. So now there's a way to differentiate my offer from other teams, or I'm going to book, invest in you to be the franchise, the center of my franchise. Whereas if you go to OKC, yeah, you're going to be on the team, but you're not going to be getting a lot of playing time right away. So,
but Ben, in general, that it is true though that all the regional effects we were talking about before would just be exacerbated, would they not? Given that it's not. Now they have to compete also for the rookies in the same way that they're disadvantaged when competing for free agents.
To some extent, except that one, there are only so many of these guys that teams are going to invest significantly in. So if LA decides that they want player X and player Y, then that's it. Like they're going to go after those guys. They're not going to bid on every single player in the draft. They can't. Or if you take a team that if Boston is really good, then they're not going to spend a lot on rookies, no matter how much people want to go there. They're just not going to, because it's not worth it to them. They need to save their cap for their existing star players.
That makes sense, but also you get the intertemporal effects as well. I think because you're saying some drafts are much deeper than others. So this upcoming draft anticipated being deep.
Absolutely.
If in the world you're describing, in the current world, because of the rookie cap, the slots are kind of fixed. The same amount is going to be spent on the top 10 players, regardless of whether they're great or whether they're lousy.
Exactly.
In the world you're describing, some years could be a lot more rookie pay, essentially, than others, according to what. That's interesting. That alone sounds like a big inefficiency.
So, but let me ask you a question. Let's imagine you're the NBA.
Yeah.
And Ben Alamar works for the NBA and suggests eliminating the draft.
Yeah.
Is there any way you could kind of simulate or have a prediction of what might happen if you got rid of the draft, given it's never happened before? And so I'm just wondering, like, could all hell break loose? Like, how would you even think about evaluating a concept like that?
Yeah. I think that what would happen, and this is, anytime there's a significant rule change, or the cap rules change significantly for whatever reason, the smart teams figure it out first. They figure out their strategy. They have a clear strategy that they execute around whatever the new rules are. And the teams that aren't as sophisticated, aren't as smart in the front office, they sort of like assume it's going to work exactly like free agency works now, for example. And whatever the dynamics are, there's going to be some interesting dynamics. We don't really know what they are. The closest thing we have to this would be NIL in college basketball right now. Where we are not seeing all the players flocking to the biggest cities. They're flocking to the teams that are going to pay them. There's no cap there. There's no so it's a little bit different, obviously, but team reputation, strength of the organization, all that opportunity for the player, all those things are going to matter in that world. Whereas right now in the draft they don't, because the player gets no choice.
By the way, guys, quick aside, in the WNBA, they've got this craziness that's about to happen about something that's never happened before. They're negotiating a new CBA right now. Yeah. And for years, the agents have known that they're going to have a new CBA this year. So they've expired a lot of contracts now. And so basically almost every player in the league is a free agent. As soon as they close the CBA, it's just going to be a free-for-all. It's a complete free-for-all. And just as Ben says, the advantage goes to the sharper teams, the teams that have been thinking about this ahead of time. No one knows exactly what's going to happen, but can you prepare yourself for all the contingencies so that you have an advantage in this new world?
Ben, can I just have a counter argument to yours? So let's suppose I'm a player where I certainly care about money. I mean, no doubt players care about money deeply, but they also care about winning. So if there's no draft, and I don't even know, is one of the three players one of the boozers? I don't even know. I know are they one of the players that you're talking about that's coming out?
No, they've fallen out of the top three. They're part of the high quality of this draft, but they're not top. They're not top three.
So let's just say one of the top three players says, I care about money, but I do really care about winning. You know what? I'm going to go to OKC, San Antonio. Those are my teams, and I'm going to go Denver. That's it. Boston, maybe Detroit, New York. 6. Those are the 6. Other 26 teams don't even bother contacting me. Yep. Why wouldn't the rich get richer under this scenario where I'll just call it's a multi-objective function where there's some weight on winning, and that's going to force possibly the other teams to overpay in uncertainty, which could actually lead to their demise.
Yeah. So so there are a couple of things there. One, you've just named OKC and San Antonio as the rich getting richer, which is true, but they're also pretty small market teams. So the small market, big market thing, it seems like that's counter. The other sort of part of that is like, if you're not, if winning is, if we assume that consistent winning is a product of a strong, smart organization, then that gives smart organizations an advantage that players will want to go to those kinds of organizations. Of course, if you're not a smart, good organization that can't figure out how to win, you're going to be at a disadvantage. And the only way to do it is you have to spend more. That's the way to do it. Now, while money matters, winning matters, opportunity matters also for these guys, because particularly the guys who haven't proven, may not get huge rookie offers. They're going to have to prove themselves. And so if they don't have opportunity to play, going to OKC, Boston, Denver, like if they're not going to have an opportunity to play there, then they're not going to have an opportunity to get their next contract, and be brilliant. So lots of dimensions going to come into the public decision.
Let me, Adi has a question. I have a follow-up on this topic as well. Adi.
So in the draft, you're talking about or replacing it or something. similar. How much does the quality drop from the top 3, top 4? And that must make an enormous difference on this kind of calculation. So, I mean, this is something that we've always talked about in Moneyball, and basketball is clearly the most rapidly decaying function among all sports. And I'm not sure it actually is because they really get that much worse, or just because the team only has 5 players and there's only one ball. And
by the way, Adi, do you mean a priori or a posteriori?
I mean, okay. I mean, a priori. I mean,
Okay,
basically,
just checking.
okay. That's a great question, but I'm essentially asking: can you really build a team without having regular access to the top X, where X is what, 3, 5, 9, 20? Generally, my understanding about the draft is after the first round is you're just nothing there. Maybe you get a generation, you get a player of any value every now and then, but can you really build it without access to the real top?
I mean, you can build a team without access to the top, but you're going
a winning team, right?
You can build a team without access to the very top of the draft, provided that you have other avenues to acquire, high level talent. You can't if you can't bring players in through free agency or trade that are of that caliber, the most likely place to get those kinds of players is at the very top of the draft. They're not. They don't all exist there. You can get them like Jokic was, in a.
He's the exception that proves the rule on some level.
I mean, these players do exist and they happen, but they tend to be at least in the top 10 of the draft, if not top 5. And so, it's really hard to compete without a couple of guys that are that good.
Guys, let me real quick observation, and then we need to change to a final question for Ben before we go. But I just want to observe a specific thing about what Ben said before. If you did go to this system, the advantage to the sharp clubs, essentially, if you think about it right now, the challenge with a draft primarily is to order the players. And if you go to free agency model, the challenge is to value every player. And the second task is much harder than the first task. And so the advantage, if you're a sharp club, you want a more complicated, more challenging task because you can separate more. And so you might claim that would be an advantage to the sharp club. Ben, I saw you recently and you mentioned that you've taken up a cause. You're evangelical about a new cause.
Yes.
That I think would probably be sympathetic to. So tell us about this cause. Now, Adi, this is going to tickle you, I think.
Okay.
It is my very strong belief that Dean Oliver belongs in the Basketball Hall of Fame. I think the case is a slam dunk, no problem. His qualifications, his background, his impact on the game are so deep and obvious that he absolutely belongs in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Dean obviously wrote Basketball on Paper.
So hold on, Ben. Hold on. First, tell us by what avenue do you get him in here? We think about Wilt Chamberlain and Magic Johnson and Dean Oliver. Come on.
Yeah. So Dean Oliver. So there's a category in the Hall of Fame of contributors, people who have had an positive impact on the game. And so those are that's the avenue, the lane in which Dean gets added to the Hall of Fame.
And who are some examples from that contributor side?
I mean, there are a variety of guys, but Del Harris, Rod Thorne, Rick Welts, Doug Collins. So these are, and so you can get in multiple times. So Doug Collins can get in as a coach, but also as a contributor through his media work. Or and Del Harris has been a real ambassador for the game overseas, for example. Rick Welts has been really innovative on the business side of basketball and really contributes to the game. Dean obviously has contributed to how teams think about basketball and really changed that significantly. So that's why, as a contributor, he really belongs in the Hall of Fame.
So Ben, tell us. So we're analysts, and so we think Dean speaks our language, and so yes, he helps us understand it. He gives us a lens to understand the game. You're from that same world. You have a PhD in economics. What's the evidence that you would muster for his having changed the way actual basketball people who run teams and play the game think differently because of Dean?
The whole concept of efficiency and the 4 factors of basketball are have permeated throughout the league. So Dean brought these concepts in Basketball on Paper, which is, to me, the starting point of modern basketball analytics when he published that book. And so that I mean, you find that book on most in most front office on a bookshelf somewhere. At least one copy in every team building somewhere. But so if you take the four factors, for example, which is sort of a clear way to think about a team, you have their shooting efficiency, rebound efficiency, turnovers, and ability to get to the line. These are the four factors that we can measure, and we know that we take those, how a team performs on those things on offense and defense, is 90+% correlation to their point differential.
Yeah. Let me just point out, because I do this with my senior students. I teach a sports analytics capstone, and it's remarkable because it works almost as well, or basically as well as point differential.
Yeah.
Just to show you. So in other words, you're basically taking a bunch of peripherals and you're using them to predict winning percentage, and it does it as well as the score differential.
What does as well, Adi?
Not quite. It can't be exactly as well, but
these
it is
four factors
really incredibly close. I mean, in fairness, shooting efficiency is one of them.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, that's the biggest factor. And it's not like, and that doesn't have anything that has a lot to do with your score differential.
So real quickly, to remind us what shooting efficiency is. And you mentioned efficiency right off the top. And if you want to give Dean credit for one thing, it's probably this notion of efficiency, but to remind us what it is.
So efficiency overall is points per possession. That's how we think about it. And that is a paradigm shift in basketball significantly. And shooting efficiency, typically we think about effective field goal percentage, which says, all right, we're going to give you more credit for making a 3-point shot than a 2-point shot because it's harder to make and it's worth more. So that's the effective field goal percentage, basically, weights 2s and 3s more reasonably and gives us a better sense of how well a team is shooting given these two different kinds of shots.
Well, Ben, by the way, if it makes you feel any better, I asked the Oracle, ChatGPT, what his odds are of making the Hall of Fame. And it said, actually, it's pretty moderate. It gave it 40% chance. Now, I could ask it on what basis and all kinds of things, but it said he's an extraordinarily strong contributor, but in what people would consider a niche area. But either way.
But your Oracle doesn't know that Ben Alamar is on the job. It hasn't picked up yet on the fact that there's an evangelist out there. Who do you have to convince, Ben, and how long a campaign are you geared up to wage?
Yeah, so I'm going to keep fighting this one till I get some traction. I first rolled this out at Sloan a couple of years ago in a history of basketball analytics panel that Dean was on, but I asked Mike Zarin, when we were going to get Dean in the Hall of Fame, and Zarin acknowledged that he belongs there.
Hold on. Zarin, front office with the Boston Celtics?
Absolutely, yes. Now, and call Oliver the Bill James of basketball. So
now, is Bill James is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame? There's no probably avenue for that, right?
Yeah, that's
if this avenue existed in baseball,
I don't know how you do it, but
he could be. I mean, Bill James, would he be? I guess he wouldn't be considered a writer at all because there's obviously a writer's.
He was a writer.
Yeah,
obviously.
he should be considered a writer, and he should be in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely,
yeah, I don't see why. They've got it. If there's not a reason for Bill James being in the Baseball Hall of Fame, they got to figure that out because that doesn't seem right.
Yeah. By the way, just so you know, I asked ChatGPT if Ben Alamar really pushes for it. You added 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
I'm just Ben. I'm not just
now here's a better question, Eric. We're out of control.
I'm going to ask it.
If Cade Massey pushes for it.
That's what I'm about to do. Adi,
Don't do that.
I'm not going to use me. I'm going to use me. If Eric Bradlow and it says, all right, now we're down to 25%.
Yeah, we're losing points.
But Ben, you're worth 10 to 15%.
I'm staying out of it.
Hey,
I'm value add.
We are getting the Baseball Hall of Fame, the head of the Baseball Hall of Fame, on the show in the next month, and we're going to start the Bill James. We're going to start the Bill James campaign.
There you go. And somebody needs to lead that charge. That's I can't take that one on, but I'll.
Actually, let me just say, Cade, I will ask. We're having Josh Trowick, who's the president of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, on next week, Ben, and I'm going to ask him, do you ever see a path where someone that's changed the game of baseball through analytics, like you could argue, why not Billy Beane at some level too? I mean, why isn't he in the Baseball Hall of Fame?
Yeah. What are you talking about? How about Theo Epstein?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
that's another
The
name.
championships, right?
Yeah,
well, Theo will
We've
get there
been still
based on
waiting for
that.
Ennis, right?
So I mean, those guys, like, there's clear ways for them to do it, and the impact that they had are sort of advancing, using these things, thinking about the front office in a new and interesting way with the tools. But Bill James created the tools. Like, Dean Oliver changed the way we make decisions in basketball, and that's
It's a great cause. It's a great cause. Keep beating that drum. We'll start going along with you. Ben, we've kept you longer than we meant to. Thank you very much. Always a delight to talk to you.
my pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Ben Alamar, longtime sports analytics. He has got a book on sports analytics. He is teaching a program on sports analytics at the University of Texas at the moment. He will be at the Sloan Sports Analytics Conference hosting a panel in just about a month's time. All right, guys, that has been the first half of Wharton Moneyball. Come back and join us after the break. Welcome back. Welcome back to Wharton Moneyball. Welcome to the second half, or you might say the last quarter. We went long that first half with Ben Alamar. Delightful conversation. Could have gone on for a while. Ben's always a fun conversation. We're going to go about 15 minutes. Adi has to get to the classroom. So let's do a quick what caught your eye. There are obviously interesting things floating around. I think Adi might want to jump in here first. Gentlemen, around the world of sports.
I will jump in because it's something that I've studied in general, though not in specifics. It's the judging fiasco in skating at the Olympics.
Okay.
And so I won't fill in all the details, but suffice it to say, the French judge gave a very high score to the French competitors, and importantly, gave an extremely low score to the American competitors.
Wow.
And it essentially completely reversed the order of the competition.
Which competition was this?
And of course, this was the doubles, the mixed doubles skating competition. I forget exactly which version. And as you know, Shane's not here to scream and yell, but he'll tell you that real sports aren't subjective, right? But of course, skating is a real sport, and it has judges, and they have a format, and typically you have a set of judges each make a score, and then there's some sort of summary of the usually 6 or 7.
Don't they take a trimmed?
Now I know they do that in diving. I'm not sure they do it in skating.
I thought they did it in skating. I thought
I think this might be a niche skating competition, not the main skating competition. And I feel like they've really ironed out the main skating competition in a way that
niche. I mean, I can tell you that
it's like ice dancing or something instead of the actual.
I think the ice dancers would disagree whether or not it's niche or not.
Well,
may not be historically the most famous of the.
But Adi, there were full-on like communist bloc almost battles over this back
years
in the
ago.
day.
I mean, the whole meme of the Russian judge comes from that.
Yeah,
right?
but they ironed it out in some way. So this must be.
Well, clearly they haven't, because there's a controversy over this. And I haven't looked at the data, but one of the things that I think as a statistician is interesting is the idea that you can essentially establish an enormous bias. You can, I don't know what you want to call it other than that. If without having much data, if the delta is exceptionally large relative to historical standards. And I believe that is what happened here.
I see. Well, let me just say, I did look. They prune the highest and the lowest. There's 9 judges for both technical and whatever they call the other one, aesthetics or whatever. They do prune the highest and lowest. So one judge, even a French judge on a French team, could not actually lift them. Although it does remove margin of error if you want. It means, that means the second score is going to count some way much more than otherwise. So I'm not.
What would have been the max now becomes the second, and that gets included.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The distribution of the second score is different than the max.
You're saying the delta. You're saying between the top rated and lowest rated. Is that the delta you're talking about?
What delta? Delta is between the top and the bottom compared to the overall panel average
of the delta. The panel average.
That's what I would call the delta. So there's one of the exercises that I've done with students is you can find a judge that only has 2 or 3 measurements where he has a nationality match with his compatriot during the competition, and you can still nevertheless demonstrate pretty clearly that there is bias, because he might have judged 40 or 50 skaters or divers or whatever competition you're looking at, and his 2 highest differentials or delta are for when he made the match. And that just has astoundingly small probability.
Why don't they just knock out the judges rating their own nation? Why is that
That
the
would be an interesting. Well, you can't that easily because the nations with the largest competitors, United States or China, France, whatever it is, probably have more than one, and that would
Well,
would
then
make a
don't
difference.
give them more than one. There's plenty of nations with figure skating going on to have one per
Right.
one from different
Anyway,
countries.
it's not done. At least
Okay.
it's not done yet.
Interesting.
So that's
All right. All right, Eric, what you
Well,
got?
I got a brief one, and then I still want to emphasize again, I'm a big fan, because I used to ski a lot. I'm a big fan of skiing, and I want to say it again. So now Mikaela Shiffrin, the most celebrated women's downhill skier in the history of skiing, matter of male or female, is now 0-8 in her last 8 Olympic races. And I just want to be clear. I don't mean 0-8 not winning the gold. I mean 0-8 not even medaling. And so, look, the good news is, let me say for her, she has 2 golds and a silver from the first 3 races she ever did in the Olympics. That's great. That's an extraordinarily accomplished career. But it's starting to get to the point where it is going to detract from her overall accomplishments as a skier. It's just going to. This is about to be, she has 1 race left. It's about to be the 3rd straight Olympics where she will not win a medal. And
so the race is tomorrow's Wednesday's slalom, I believe,
that is
which
correct.
might be her
Slalom
best
is left.
her best event.
Yep.
So what's your bet? What probability do you give that she medals?
I would say 1/3.
Okay, so it's distinctly below what her world ranking would
Correct.
suggest.
Below what her world ranking is, but still high enough that reflects that that is her best event, and she's the best women's slalom racer of all time.
Do you go? You want above or below 33%? Do you want to be above
winning? Is this winning?
No,
is that
medaling.
Medaling. I want above it.
I want above it too. So you and I, neither one are going as far to the.
I'm not. We are not momentum guys.
Yeah, I'm a momentum person.
I mean, let's just get a meme going here.
Yeah, let's go.
So
but let me talk about the topic I really wanted to talk about.
So no, hold on. We're real quickly on this point.
Right.
You guys are hardcore statisticians. Do you believe people that practice like performance coaches are a thing? Do you think that's do you think they can substantively shift an athlete's performance, a performance coach, a mental coach?
God, you know what? I have nothing substantive to say on that statement.
I don't know.
Well done, Adi. Well done. That's good awareness.
Do I think a performance coach can help someone perform at their maximum, given also understanding there is inter-day variation and all of those things? Right. Yes, I do. I do. I believe, I didn't say that they can make them necessarily perform better, but can they make someone perform near their maximum, maybe more consistently? Yes.
That's really well defined. You operationalized it better.
Yes, I think they can.
We should find someone to come on and talk to us about that. You're hearing lots of, between what's happened with Shiffrin and the figure skater Ilya, what's his name? There's lots of talking about that. Eric, I've got to sneak mine in here before Adi goes away. So if you want to linger for a minute, I'll get your second one.
Right,
let me put one in there that I have for y'all in particular. I want to hire y'all. Y'all do statistical consulting on occasion. I want to hire y'all. I run the Olympics, and I'm worried about the. I think it's been kind of willy-nilly when we get multiple versions of the same event, and it's not clear to me why we should have multiple versions, or maybe we should have more, maybe we should have fewer. So I want to know, like, is 4 the right number of downhill events to have? We have a downhill on one end, we have slalom on the other, but now we have a giant slalom, we have a super G. So we have 4 variations, and I don't know, I run the Olympics. Is 4 the right number? I mean, is 4 too much? Should it be 5? Okay, different question. Speed skating. And this goes back to something Adi's complained about in the Summer Olympics, how many different events there are with swimming. So speed skating, what is the right number of links to have? Not forget short track, just traditional speed skating. There's 500, there's 1,000, there's 1,500, 5,000, 10,000. And I run the Olympics. I don't know. Are these speed skaters giving us all these extra races because they want more medals? Does it make sense? Or maybe we need even more. Maybe we need a 750 meter. I need y'all as
Okay.
statisticians to tell me how I should think about this problem.
So I can start with one way to think about it, which I know is similar in track, and it's certainly true in swimming, is that there's a huge difference between the training, the body type,
Absolutely.
the skill of being distanced to sprint, and the middle is also essentially its own centroid. Now, and the reason why that's fascinating is that basically you have the elite in each of those three categories, and they're almost always distinctly different people, except for an occasional superstar can dominate in two adjacent lengths. So in swimming, you can have someone who's good at the 400 and maybe the 800
Like
at the same
Katie
time.
Ledecky.
Katie Ledecky is the only one who really comes to mind. For example,
So now I understand the
skating is
theory.
I've got
Okay, I understand that. I understand the theory.
I have a different.
I'm sorry.
Let me just jump in quickly about a different measure. A different measure would be, let's imagine you could measure ability at different lengths. And let's imagine, I'm just trying to operationalize this. Let's imagine the correlation between theta j and theta j plus 1, where j indicates the length of the race, was extraordinarily high, so that in some sense, you might as well call it one winner, because the ability is so correlated between the, to me, that would suggest a redundancy in races.
So you're what you did with your theta was the underlying ability. It's theta ij, is that right? So it's all the different thetas for it's your thetas was the underlying ability. You're going to estimate the underlying ability, but it's theta I. You're going to do underlying thetas for all the different skiers. And then you're going to do it for each of the different races. And you're going to ask how correlated the theta I's are across J's. So for each skier, what their theta in an event, how does it correlate with their theta in another event? Do I have that right? That's a very clear.
That's what my suggestion was.
Okay. So take downhill. So, Adi, are you happy with that? And by the way, what would your criteria be? How would we know what's high or what's low? Like take the 4 downhill events. And so how are we going to judge whether do we really need Super G, or is it like, the giant slalom is enough? That's the middle race. Super G was, I think, the last comer. I'm just statistically.
So now you want me to come up with a cutoff score, you're saying?
Well, I just want I'm asking Adi, I like the way you did that, but I want to know, Adi, are you satisfied with that? I thought there might be a cluster. Is clustering any different really than what Eric just suggested?
I don't think so. I mean, it's a complicated issue because there's also the marketing side of this. People want to see more events because it's just more fun, more opportunity. And that really giantly competes. I mean, speed skating, you might say, is overly divided too many, because think about Eric Heiden. I think he won 7 gold medals
but he was that was 40
that many.
That was 46 years ago. And one of the things they have said about this Wisconsin kid is that he was only the second ever to win both the 500 and the 1,000. So that's Eric's correlation not being very high. The 500 and 1,000. So apparently that's a distinction between the short and the middle that's substantive. Okay, I'll let that go. I wanted to get your quick thoughts. And we should probably cut Odd out. Well,
I'm going to cut out.
Eric is going to give us another, what he really wants to talk about.
And I'll talk to you next
week. All right.
Have fun in class, Adi.
So I just had one more. So this statistic has been on my mind for weeks now because it's been true. So I'll have you guess for a second. So the Lakers, by the way, this year, it's in the NBA, of course, have a very good record. They're 33-21. I think we'd agree that's a good record, right?
Good.
It's good. I didn't say it's great. I said it's good.
Yeah.
It's a good record. Yeah. They're actually winning. 54 games. They're winning well more than 60% of their games. So they're playing well. Yeah. Do you know what their point differential is, Cade?
I'm guessing not very much.
It's 0.
Okay.
So I compare that to teams around them, like the Nuggets, the Rockets, etc. Their differential is like +5. So over 50-something games, those teams have more than a 300 point differential, and the Lakers have 0. So
you're saying the average differential is 0.5.
Yeah, the average
5.
per game.
The average,
per game.
Well, this is Pythagorean. This is the Pythagorean.
That's what I'm saying. This to me seems like a significant deviation from Pythagorean, where literally they're at 0, but somehow, you could argue there's 2 things that could cause this, right? They're winning a lot of close games, and LeBron James is going to help you do that, or they're getting blown out a lot in games, which is when they lose real bad. And by the way, that's because Luka hasn't played a lot of games. LeBron's injured. But all I'm commenting on is, this is something actually, next time I speak to, Ben Alamar or, Dean Oliver or somebody else on, I'm gonna ask him, like, how much does, because again, OKC, let me just say, by the way, despite them having played 500 ball over the last 20 games, if we look over the almost 60 games of the season so far, the season ended right now, they would break the record, their own record of last year, for the greatest point differential in NBA history.
Per game.
Per game. So at some level, that has to say something, just in the same way to me, the Lakers being at 0 means they're really 500-ish, but they just happen to be 33-21, unless someone tells me otherwise.
One version of this question would be, is the Pythagorean theorem, which comes out of Bill James. We talked about Bill in the first half of the show. It's a Bill James thing, but then it gets applied across all sports. It's basically just asking to what extent, it's saying in a big sample, your point differential is going to relate to your win record. And so we kind of know whether someone's underperforming or overperforming their point differential. Here's one version of the question, Eric. Might it mean less in basketball than other sports? I guess that's, you've already hypothesized on why the Lakers might have a worse differential than their record would suggest, because they've got a couple of players that are key, and those players aren't playing as regularly. And so they have these disproportionate negative point differentials when those guys are out. Might that be just kind of a hallmark of basketball? These, the load issues and the impact of a single player and stars. Might all that suggest that Pythagorean would be less predictive?
That's, by the way, that's an answerable empirical question. And it's a good one. It's also one related to the topic we talked to Ben Alamar about in the first half. You have a league with tanking and a team with resting players. You even mentioned resting players, and you're going to get situations like, here's an argument. What we're observing for the Lakers is a mixture distribution between the 80% of games they're trying, the 20% of games they're not. That leads to a breakage of the Pythagorean formula, and it leads to a point differential of 0, but a massively winning record.
Okay, and that to me suggests that basketball needs these mixture distributions more than other sports do. Like, you're not going to get discretely different distributions of team performance in the NFL like you will in basketball, and you're certainly not going to get it in baseball either, right?
Yeah,
so mixture distributions are just
you're definitely not getting in football.
Okay, so if that's the case, then for sure it will be less meaningful. A Pythagorean. It's almost like you need to have a mixture of your Pythagoreans.
I like it, actually. In some sense, you could imagine fitting a latent class or a mixture model. Unless you want to say for basketball, you can kind of tell based on who they play, which are the real games and which are the tank games. You then fit a model separately, or fit the formula separately to those two, and then see what would happen. I think that would be something interesting.
Well, it calls to mind when Nate Silver was publishing at 538, they had a basketball model. He probably still publishes a basketball model, but they had a basketball power ranking, and they had two versions of it, Eric. They had regular season and playoff. And they were that's essentially the mixture distribution we're talking about. They're recognizing that there's a full strength team in the NBA, and then there's some non-full strength team, and you need to understand them and model them separately.
And I know we're going to run out of time, but just one last thing to give a shout out for your Texas boy, Scottie Scheffler. I mean, I don't care that he didn't win. It was great theater. This is the greatest run in golf since Tiger Woods in 2001. He's now got 18 top 10s in a row. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable. And, it's amazing how great a golfer this man is. I was very happy to see Colin Morikawa win his first tournament in almost 3 years.
That is fun.
He won by age 24 and hasn't even won since then, essentially. I was thrilled to see Morikawa win, but watching Scheffler blow 3 putts 5 feet or less and still shot a 63, by the way, including making 3 eagles. I don't think in my whole life of watching golf I've ever seen a golfer make 3 eagles before. in one single round of golf. I'm sure it's happened, but I'm just commenting that I think we should appreciate Scottie Scheffler for who he is. And I'm going to tell you, he's not Tiger Woods yet, not even close. Let him do it for another 5 years. But I have no reason to believe he won't do it for another 5 years. And look, I don't know if he's getting to 15 majors. That's not fair. But he could easily get into the Gary Player, Tom Watson, that league of 8 to 10 majors. And I'm going to tell you something. This is a top 10 golfer of all time. He's great.
I don't disagree with any of that, Eric. It makes me wonder about what other comparisons we can come up with. Let's move beyond Tiger, because Tiger is well within our adult memory, and we lived that. We lived it. We understand what that's like. There were a handful of great golfers in our lifetime, but we probably weren't paying enough attention, and the metrics weren't there yet. And then there are a number of them before our lifetime. If you go back and ask what's the best 5-year run of golf in PGA history, like 9 of the top 10 are Tiger. So let's not do it that way. Let's do it at a golfer level and ask peak 5 years of the best 10 or 12 golfers in the history of golf, and ask, what does Scottie need to do, or where to peak 3 years, like Nicklaus at his best, Watson at his best. How is Scheffler comparing to that? And let's stack up the historical golfers. Again, Tiger's going to be number 1. And if we let him have multiple observations, he'd be the top 10.
Yeah.
But let's not do that. And let's just ask, because I want the next comparison, Eric.
Yeah. I'm going to give you that, but just one last thing. I think the thing that's amazing about Scheffler, besides he has 20 wins already in his career, he had his first one only 4 years ago. So let's just be clear. He's had a 4-year run that's incredible. I think it's fair to compare him to the 3-year stretch. Let's talk about recent golf. The 3 to 4 year stretch that Rory McIlroy had when he piled up all those majors, but hadn't yet won the Masters. Remember, he went 11 years without winning a major. Between ages 21 and 24, Rory McIlroy cleaned up. Let's even say Jordan Spieth.
How many wins did he have?
That I don't know, but I'm guessing
Spieth didn't come close to.
It's not way. There's no way it's 20. He might have had as many majors, but I'm not even sure of that.
No, we want the other as well. Well, this is a question, like, what's the criteria?
Yeah, but you asked me who are the other stretches. I would compare it to Rory McIlroy during that stretch. Jordan Spieth had a stretch. Those would be the.
He's going to beat Spieth. No, he's going to beat those guys. So, but it's not Tiger, but I want to know how he compares to Nicklaus's best, to Palmer's best, and going further back, like Hogan's best, like what.
I will have that for you, and I will announce it, not next week. Okay. Maybe I will in the open segment, but I'm so excited about the Baseball Hall of Fame guy next week. But I will produce that analysis on request.
Let's have a moment on the criteria, and then we'll let it go. We've already decided it can't just be majors, and it can't just be wins. It could be wins. It could be number of top 10s, but we like wins, and that's what they care about is wins.
We could have the actual, scoring average below the PGA average.
We're going to need multiple dimensions.
Yeah.
Wins would be the easiest. Like the probability of winning, like the 6-month probability of winning, something like that. But anyway, fun conversation. We need to push beyond the Tiger comparison. I just want to know how, and we can't do it from memory is one of the things that my sense is. So let's ask about Nicklaus and Watson in their prime and a few others like that. Okay. Why don't we wrap it there? That has been more than a full hour of sports analytics here on Wharton Moneyball. For the whole team, Eric Bradlow, who's been in here for the whole run, Adi Wyner was here for almost all of it, Shane Jensen in absentia, our friend and associate producer, Dion Simpkins, who makes things happen around here, Marissa Reyna, our producer, and Dee Patel, the boss lady. Many thanks to you guys for listening as well. Come back and join us next time. Between now and then, enjoy your sports.